Jacob Reed sat alone in his sleek modern office, a thick folder of complaints spread out before him like a grave ledger of failure. The pages listed slow service, rude staff, and cold food, all issues that clashed with the warm, family-friendly image he had painstakingly built over the years. As he read the complaints aloud in a voice tight with frustration, Jacob knew that something was terribly wrong with the diner chain he had grown from nothing into a trusted brand. The numbers were dire: soaring turnover, plummeting reviews, and mounting customer dissatisfaction. Though his managers insisted everything was fine, Jacob sensed the truth was hidden beneath the polished facade. It was time to step away from the boardroom, ditch the tailored suit, and go undercover to uncover what was really happening at his own establishment. Determined, Jacob decided to visit one of his diners, a suburban diner located 2 hours from his corporate headquarters, where no one would recognize him. He traded his expensive suit for a simple hoodie and jeans, even adding thick-rimmed glasses and letting his beard grow scruffy. Today, he would be just another customer, free from the weight of his title. At lunchtime, the diner buzzed with activity. The hum of clinking dishes and soft murmur of conversation filled the air, yet something about the atmosphere felt off. The booths were worn, the decor tired, and a palpable tension lingered in the background. As Jacob stepped inside, a waitress named Megan approached him. Her name tag was slightly askew, and although her smile was bright, there was a noticeable weariness in her eyes. "Hi, welcome," she said in a strained voice. "What can I get you?" she asked, trying to sound upbeat. "Just a coffee for now," Jacob replied, settling into a booth by the window. Megan nodded and darted off, juggling orders with a speed that suggested desperation rather than efficiency. Jacob watched as she flitted between tables, refilling drinks and clearing plates, with evident competence despite her fatigue. But it wasn't long before a gruff voice cut through the din. "Megan, what's taking so long? You're falling behind again," barked a stocky man from the kitchen. His name tag read Rick, the shift manager, and his tone was harsh, leaving Megan visibly flinching before she hurriedly responded, "Coming right up." Jacob's grip tightened around his coffee mug. This wasn't the warm, caring service he had envisioned for his diners. It was a scene of staff scolding each other in front of customers. Moments later, when Megan delivered his burger, she muttered, "Sorry about the wait," in a barely audible tone. Jacob smiled weakly and replied, "You're doing great," but the praise did little to ease the tension he observed. Around him, snippets of discontent drifted from nearby tables. A man complained about food taking forever, another customer mentioned that a manager had snapped at a server, and even a teenager remarked that the diner was no longer the haven it used to be. Then a sound stopped Jacob cold, muffled sobs coming from the kitchen. He listened as Megan pleaded quietly, "I'm trying my best. I haven't had a break in 6 hours." In response, Rick's voice was icy. "If you can't handle it, maybe this isn't the job for you." That was the moment Jacob had been dreading. He abandoned his half-eaten meal and strode toward the kitchen. There, he found Megan, tears streaking her face, while Rick loomed over her with crossed arms. Two cooks kept their heads down, avoiding the confrontation. "Is there a problem here?" Jacob asked, his tone steady but edged with authority. Rick bristled. "Who are you?" he demanded. "Someone who cares," Jacob replied, ignoring Rick's protest. "She needs a break. Let her sit for 5 minutes." Rick scoffed. "We're short-staffed. There's no time for breaks." "There's always time to treat people right," Jacob shot back. Before Rick could reply, a wiry cook named Connor piped up. "She hasn't stopped since she got here, not even for water." Rick glared, trying to shut Connor down. Stepping closer, Jacob pressed. "Who's making sure your team can do their jobs properly? Because this pressure, it's coming from you." Rick's face reddened. "I'm doing my job. If they can't keep up, that's on them." "We'll see," Jacob murmured, his voice low and firm. Turning back to Megan, he said, "Take 5 minutes, Megan. You deserve a break." Though she hesitated at first, she slipped away, leaving Rick sputtering as Jacob fixed him with a stern look. "Rick," Jacob said, "how long have you been here?" 2 years, Rick replied stiffly. In 2 years, you've turned this diner into a place where employees are overworked and customers feel neglected. This isn't how I run things." Rick's face paled as Jacob continued. "Overworked staff, unhappy customers? That's not running a business, it's running it into the ground." Before Rick could muster a retort, Megan reappeared. Jacob watched her for a moment, noting the exhaustion etched on her face, yet the effort she still made to smile at every customer. A young mother received crayons for her restless child, and an elderly man was offered an extra coffee refill. All small gestures that spoke to Megan's dedication despite the overwhelming workload. Meanwhile, Rick's harsh tone from the kitchen continued to sour the atmosphere. Unable to tolerate it any longer, Jacob pulled out his phone and began jotting down notes, documenting Rick's behavior, Megan's workload, and the mounting customer complaints. After settling his bill, he told Megan quietly, "You're doing great," and stepped outside. Once outside, Jacob quickly called his assistant, Janet. "Clear my schedule for tomorrow. I need a full report on the staff at this suburban diner, and prep the regional managers for a meeting first thing in the morning." Still incognito in his casual disguise, Jacob returned to the diner. The place was noticeably quieter now. Megan worked at a slower pace, her movements measured and tired, while Rick's frustration seemed to have only intensified. During the lunch rush, an older customer complained about overcooked eggs. Megan apologized, promising to have the meal remade correctly. The customer's temper flared, and soon Rick stormed out of the kitchen, his voice raised in anger over yet another order mistake. Unable to contain his mounting frustration any longer, Jacob stood up from his booth and marched toward the kitchen. "That's enough, Rick," he said, his voice calm but slicing through the clamor like a knife. "Who the hell are you?" he demanded, pulling out his company ID. "I'm Jacob Reed, and I own every Reed's diner from this one to all the others." Silence fell instantly. Megan's eyes widened in shock, and even Connor peeked from behind the counter. Rick's face drained of color. I didn't—" Rick began, but Jacob cut him off. "You wouldn't treat my people this way if you truly cared about the reputation we've built." In a cramped back office, Jacob shut the door firmly. "You've been here 2 years, Rick, and in that time you've turned this place toxic. I can do better." Rick stammered weakly. "No, you're done." There was no arguing after that. Rick was immediately relieved of his managerial duties. Stepping back out, Jacob gathered the remaining staff. He found Megan and Connor in a quiet booth, and with a steady, resolute tone, he addressed them. "I've seen what's been happening here. I know you've kept this place running under impossible pressure, and I take responsibility for not noticing sooner. But that ends today. I'm making changes. Megan, you're getting a raise and bonuses because your work truly matters. Connor, you're now my assistant manager. Your loyalty and dedication deserve recognition." Megan's eyes filled with tears of relief, and Connor managed a grateful smile. "Thank you, sir," Megan whispered, and Connor nodded in agreement. Over the next few weeks, Jacob oversaw a complete overhaul at the suburban diner. A new manager, Denise, was brought in. Fresh hires were added to ease the burden, and equipment was updated to improve efficiency. Slowly but surely, the diner began to buzz with genuine smiles from both staff and customers alike. One afternoon, as Jacob was about to leave, Megan stopped him in the lobby. "It's better now," she said softly. "I feel like someone finally cares." Jacob smiled warmly. "It does matter, Megan. Respect and care are the foundation of everything we do." As he drove away, Jacob felt a deep sense of pride, not just in the improved profits, but in the people who had reclaimed the vision of Reed's Diners. He had taken a stand not only for his business, but for every employee who deserved to be treated with dignity. Today, he had shown that leadership means listening, acting, and sometimes even walking among the very people you serve, all to ensure that every diner feels like home.